When in our history, in human history, has personhood ever been designated to give somebody rights or life? You look at the history of personhood, the term personhood has only ever been used to deny rights to a group of people. So if you look at history, it's been given, women were not seen as persons, African Americans were not seen as persons, slaves were not seen as persons. All of these groups of people were said, yes, they're human, but they're not persons. And so it has only been, yes, exactly, other humans, right? Yes. So it has only ever been used to discriminate, which is why it's interesting that they bring up that word personhood, because they're discriminating based on age in the situation.
He was trying to push it to start.
Yeah. Well,
this information that scientists gives out through paid psyops. I mean, when you get into that, you don't even know if what they say is right or not anymore. They're confusing everybody with like little small details, but logically, a kid is a human. A kid has a personality. As soon as you go into, let's say, understand a soul movement, if you believe there's a soul, then that changes the whole.
but what about if you don't believe in souls?
That's the thing. If you don't believe in souls, then you're probably
and that's where
an atheist, right?
And that's where the whole personhood thing becomes so subjective, though. It's because I can say personhood, you can say personhood. Personhood is a variable that many people will argue over. But when you are talking about whole distinct living human being like you and me, you cannot deny that. That is a scientific fact, right? And so when you talk facts to people rather than bantering about this personhood, yes, no, maybe so, then you just can't deny it, right? It's like them saying, okay, that women weren't persons. Well, we're whole distinct living human beings, just like the male gender. The only difference is the gender, right? So by bringing it back to the core issue, if you are giving human rights to everybody else, why not the preborn? Why is it that special thing about the womb? What is it about the womb that makes it so much different? Since when does where we are define whether or not we have human rights? If I'm standing in that building, right?
Well, why do we have that law right now that's still standing that says that you're not a human being until you're completely separated from your mother?
To keep selling these fetuses to that company I was talking about.
It is a good question. Why do we not have any laws? We are the only developed country that has no laws. We are the only one of 3 that has no laws on abortion in the whole world. That includes us, North Korea, and China. So that's where our human rights are standing right now. And that's disgusting if you ask me, that we would be put on the same standard as them.
Yeah, not great company, eh?
Why? Because if you look at people who are like, well, it's like we can do it, and thus we like, why are you taking that right away from us? Well, they could have slaves. That was a whole legality thing back in the day too, right? Like slavery was okay, oppression of women was okay. All these other human rights issues were okay back in the day by the legal government. But does legality equate to morality? Just because it is allowed by our government doesn't mean that it is morally okay for us to do to other human beings. And that, if you look at history, has not been congruent.
No. Well, I guess the reason they have that law is because they want to be able to kill the unborn child, and killing a human being is homicide.
That's right.
So they have to define the preborn child as not human, so that they can kill them and then not be charged with homicide.
And it's a big business killing them. That's